Good afternoon, fellow app makers. It's Behzad here again from Code Simplifier. Welcome back to part 4 of how to design and develop a tip calculation application. In our previous video, we set up a container called radio group, and inside that container, we created 3 children which known as radio buttons, which those children or radio buttons were representing the percentage of the tip that the user or the customer is going to pay for their service. And in today's video, we are going to develop our user interfaces by adding more feature to make the app more user-friendly and more capable. We are going to add a switch, we are going to add a button and a text view. So this is how the setup is going. We are going to have our switch under our radio group. Then below that, we are going to have our button, which calculates the amount of the tip, and here we got our text that represent the amount of the tip that user is going to pay. Here is our radio group. So one tiny things we have to add before moving on is go to your radio group tag and start off your radio group. All you have to do is just add an ID to your radio group. It could be anything, but I called it as radio group. And I'll explain to you why you need to add an ID to your radio group. So just add that one. Then we are going to minimize here by just pressing that minus sign here on left, and that will shrink the radio group to a small tag. So here is our switch. We need to add a switch to our application. Start right down switch. Put the width as 0 dp. And I'll explain to you why you need to doing it, and put the height as wrap content. Why did we put width on 0 dp? In constraint layouts, we cannot put our width as match parent because we have to identify the start of the item or user interface and the end of the user interface. That's why we have to just put it as a 0. And in the next step, we are going to explain the switch has to start from the start of the parent and it has to finish to the end of the parent. It sounds a bit confusing, so do not worry about it. I will explain it more and you will see what I mean. So we need to add an ID to it. Just add ID. So we're going to round tip switch. That is for an ID. Then here we have to explain where is the start of the switch and where is the end of the switch. That's why we put the width as 0. So we're putting as a start of constraint start to start of parent is left hand side edge. Then we have to put as end constraint end to end of. We have to finish the end edge of the switch to the end edge of the parent. That's why we're selecting the constraint end to end of our parent, which that will stretch the switch along the parent. Then we have to put margin top as 20 dp dependent pixel from the top. Then we have to start the top edge of this switch has to go to below the radio group. That's why we added this ID, because we have to identify the top edge has to stick to bottom edge of the radio group. Then we have to put bottom top constraint top constraint top to the bottom of our radio group, and that gives 20 dependent pixel gap between the radio group container and our switch. Then we need to add a text to it. In the text, we are going to ask run the tip, and here is going to ask the question. As you know, the switch, we can create our string resources when we will do it later. Do not worry about it, just skip it. That's it for the switch. We're just going to compare it with our PowerPoint. Just go back to your PowerPoint. This is what created. We created a container which starts from the edge of the parent and finish to the edge of the parent. Now we have to design our button, which same condition applies to whatever we've done recently. Go back to your Android Studio. Then we will create a button. Again, same thing. It doesn't have to have a width. We just put it as a 0 dp, and the height we put it as a wrap content /. We finish off our tag. We are going to give an ID to it, and it will be rand tip calculation button. Then we are going to have a text as calculate. Here we can just hover your mouse on the text, and that window comes up. That led us to create a string resource for the calculate. Hold on to your Alt, Shift and Enter, and this window pops up. Just click OK, and that string resource has been created. Then we have to start off the constraint to start of parent. The left edge is going to be the left edge. Then end of constraint end to end of parent. Same. That will stretch the window, stretch the button here from left to right. Then the button has to sit under the switch. That will be top of this window. Constraint top to bottom of switch. Sticks to it, and then we need to give it some gap. We just put as a margin of 20 dp. Margin top, sorry, not the margin top. It's 20 dp. That will extend it. That our button is ready. Now we are going to create a text view. Is going to be wrap content because we are going to write down the strips, and we are going to wrap content /. We are going to give an ID to it, tip amount. Again, you will have an error because we didn't identify where this component or user interface has to sit. Bring it down. Will be start of the view. We start off the parent. Sorry, we don't need to start. We need to just constrain end of parent to end of parent. So that will stick the user. Will stick the text view to the right hand side of the view. Then we are going to have margin top as 20 dp. Then this view has to sit below the calculated tip. Will be top view to bottom of calculate button, and it doesn't have any text, but that's why you don't see anything. We just add text to it as tip amount as 0.00, which it shows it as 0. Again, you can create a string resource by holding Alt Shift Enter and click OK. So that's it. Now we are going to run our application to see how our app is going to look like. This is how our application look like, and we have our switch which it can round out the tip for our user. We have our calculating button, which whenever the user press it, it will calculate the tip. And the bottom we have a text view that shows the amount of the tip that user is going to pay. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any question or any feedback or any section you didn't understand it, please make sure you write it down in the comments. I want to respond to it as quick as I can. If you are new to this channel, please make sure you subscribe to the channel, which you are not going to lose any content for future videos. Thanks for your time. I will see you all next week.